Now it's time to check in with Keith Bilbrey, and let's find out what kind of questions that you have been sending into our mailbox at my2cents@tbn.tv. Keith, stick that nice, lovely arm of yours into the mailbox. See what brings forth.
I don't know about that lovely arm. But anyway, Tom from Middle Tennessee Property Claim Services reported that the riots that occurred between May 26th and June 8th of this year could reach $2 billion in insurance claims. Now, that doesn't include everything for the past 3 months. When is our government going to put a stop to this?
Good question. I think it's an answer that a lot of mayors and governors are going to have to decide. Here's the thing I want to point out. If $2 billion in insurance claims are collected, a lot of people may say, oh, well, it's just insurance. Guess what, genius? Your rates go up even if you had nothing to do with it. That's what I don't think people understand. When people go out and burn down stores and cities and tear down other people's property and they have to file insurance, we all end up paying for that. And that's why we all ought to demand that this nonsense stops. Because those people who are doing it, they don't care how much it costs. They want it to cost a lot and ruin the rest of our lives. That's ridiculous. And so I say to some of these mayors and governors, come on, step up, do your job, and stop this nonsense. You can and you should, that's for sure. Okay, Keith, what else we got?
Well, King Carl on Yahoo writes, Mr. Huckabee, please address the Netflix film Cuties that depicts 11 to 12-year-old girls dancing seductively. This is sexualizing children, yet media critics are celebrating as liberating women. I wonder why the Christian community is not up in arms. Thank you for your help, and I'll say it again. Huckabee 2024.
All right, let's answer that one first. That ain't happening, okay? This boy's done run twice, and you see how that turned out. I'm doing a talk show, so I ain't running again. I'm done with that, but let me try to answer the question. It's a serious one about this Netflix special called Cuties. And a lot of people are upset. And I would say that a lot of Christian people are upset about it. But I'm happy to see that there is a bipartisan pushback on Netflix and this really absurd child porn kind of venture where they're glorifying the objectivization of children. When you take a child and you turn the child into a sex object, you're doing something that is just disgusting and evil. These children don't understand what's wrong with that. And I'm glad, for example, Tulsi Gabbard, who was on our show this week, has spoken out very boldly about this and condemned it, as has the daughter of Nancy Pelosi, who is, by the way, a filmmaker, and said Netflix needs to pull this, apologize for it, and realize what a dumb thing it is. So I'm glad people from all across the political spectrum are pushing back. All right, you got another one for me?
I sure do. Tammy in Orlando, when Nancy Pelosi was asked about the landmark peace agreements the president has fashioned with Israel and 2 Middle Eastern Arab neighbors, she said she hoped he was happy with his little distraction. What in the world did she mean?
Well, I guess she didn't like the haircut he got compared to the one that she got out there in the salon. Look, I thought that was one of the most ridiculous and absurd and almost insane things that has ever been said by a person in politics. This was a landmark, historic achievement to bring the United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, and Israel together to sign what is a truly breakthrough agreement. Look, these are countries that have not spoken to each other. They've not had diplomatic relations. They have not been able to travel between the two, do commerce. And now all of those things are happening because this president was able to negotiate a breakthrough deal, the first in 26 years. It is huge. Now, you know, I think that when something like this happens, I don't care what your party is, you celebrate it as an accomplishment for the world and for the United States of America. When Barack Obama ordered the attack that killed Osama bin Laden, I didn't say, well, I hope he's happy with his little distraction. No, I celebrated the fact that he gave the order, and I was grateful that he did. Too bad Joe Biden disagreed with the order and tried to get him to not do it, but the President Obama, did the right thing when he did that, and I don't care what your politics are, you ought to be able to celebrate it because it was something that America could take some sense of joy about, as we should for this issue of the Middle East peace agreement. So, let's hear what else we got.
Well, Stephen from Hope, Idaho, with all the information out there on security leaks by Democratic congressmen and senators wiping out government-issued phones, etc., my question is this: why aren't these individuals under arrest or at least charged?
That is a great question that I don't have an answer to, because if it were left to me, if you had government lawyers who knew that what they were putting on those phones was government property and potentially government evidence, and then they destroyed it, they say they accidentally entered the wrong password 20 times in a row. Does anybody honestly believe that? If you do, I've got some beachfront property in Phoenix I want to talk to you about. I'd give you a good price on it. This really is an insult to the taxpayers. It's an insult to the Constitution, an insult to good, decent law enforcement all over this country. I hope they don't get away with this, because if you destroyed evidence that was going to be used, you'd go to the pokey for it. And these folks ought to pay a price for having done something that ridiculous that they knew better, they knew was wrong. All right, any others?
One more. Daniel at AOL.com. What is your take on the group Republicans Against Trump? It's a counter movement that is voting for the progressive policies of Joe Biden. Do you think this will affect the outcome of the election?
I really don't. Look, these are people who have their feelings hurt because President Trump came in and kind of messed up things in D.C. I want to just once again explain how Washington really works. If you wondered, why did things not change that much? Democrats get elected, Republicans get elected. It's like a ping pong game. It goes back and forth. Nothing ever changes. I'll tell you why. Because Democrats and Republicans don't run Washington. The donors and the lobbyists do. And as long as they're greasing the palms of politicians, both sides, Democrats and Republicans, the donors and the lobbyists are going to get what they want. You're not going to get what you want, because you're not a donor, you're not a big donor, and you're not a lobbyist. When President Trump got to D.C. and he talked about draining the swamp, look, folks, people are really in D.C. hate him, not because he failed to fulfill his promises. They hate him because he did fulfill a lot of those promises, and he didn't keep some of those same people in power that have been there for decades and decades, who never, ever worked for us. They worked for themselves and the people who were paying them. So that's why we see what we're seeing, and I do hope that it keeps changing, because it needs to. Now, if you want more videos like that one, hit the subscribe button below and the notification bell right next to it. And if you leave a comment, positive or negative, I'll be sure that my dog Toby sees it and responds to you in kind.